The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of this station, its management, sponsors, or other hosts. If you have any comments or suggestions about this program, please contact us at radio@usaebn.org. That's radio@usaebn.org.
Welcome to the Zeta Report here on USA Emergency Broadcasting Network. We're live first Mondays of every month. My name is Andre. I'm with USA EBN, and I'm joined each Monday by Nancy Leader from Zeta Talk. Yes, ZetaTalk.com. And also, you can catch us on YouTube, but we'll talk about that in a second. Nancy, how are you?
I'm great. I'm ready to go here. You know, the things are picking up so fast. We're so obviously in the end times. And people are constantly saying that, oh, it's the end for this reason or that reason. And often they are relying on ancient prophecy, which is so profound and moving. I have decided to devote this show to just talking about what ancient prophecy tells us, not interpreting, but just reading the ancient prophecy and etc., because it says it better than anything. But before we dash into that, let me read our standard disclaimer. In partnership with USA EBN, Zeta Talk and the Zeta Report will be discussing the challenges of living on a planet beset with change, rising seas, increasing earthquakes, and volcanic activity, weather gone wild, and what to do in a worst-case scenario. We will also inject Zeta Talk prophecy on what is coming next and advice on readiness plans and safe locations. Whenever Zeta Talk is quoted, please remember that prophecy is not fact, it is opinion. It only becomes fact when it happens. The Zetas are remarkably accurate, but have been wrong on occasion. Bear that in mind. For more information on this subject, please visit ZetaTalk.com or the Zeta Report on YouTube. Throughout the ages, various prophets have sought to warn the populace about the periodic passage of Nibiru. These warnings are often depicted in myth as a story populated with fantastic characters. In many cases, the warning is passed down as a verbal story or allegorical, but can be deciphered. Most of the end-time myths describe the signs, and some allude to calamities that will occur. But most also speak of a transformation where life afterward will be better, more peaceful and cooperative. Let's visit these ancient prophecies, starting with the American Indian. The Lakota Sioux legend about the appearance of the white buffalo came true in the late 1990s. Albinism worldwide is appearing and on the increase in many species now, and in the opinion of the Zetas, the cause is the roiling core of the earth. Cave fish do not need coloration to protect from the sun, so this is in our DNA. Quoting Legends of America, the Lakota Sioux Nation has passed down the legend of the white buffalo, a story now approximately 2,000 years old. White Buffalo Calf woman told the people she would again return for the sacred bundle that she left with them to restore harmony and spirituality to a troubled land. End of the quote. The Hopi Indians have a prophecy about a red Kachina and a blue Kachina. Might this be Nibiru and the Earth's dark twin? Both are now visible. Quoting a Hopi prophecy, when the blue star Kachina makes its appearance in the heavens, the fifth world will emerge. This will be the day of purification. It will come when the Saskwahin, the blue Kachina, dances in the plaza and takes off his mask. In the final day we will look up in the heavens and we will witness the return of the two brothers who helped create this world in the birthing time. The twins will be seen in our northwestern skies. The return of the blue Kachina is also known as Nangu Saho, will be forthcoming that tells us there will be a new day, a new way of life, and a new world coming. When the purifier comes, we will see him first as a small red star, which will come very close and sit in our heavens watching us. The purifier will show us many miraculous signs in our heavens. Then one morning we will awaken to a red dawn. The sky will be the color of blood. End of the quote. Well, all that's certainly happening. In New Guinea, bitter red rain and rumpled land caused by the plate adjustments in the past figure in folklore. Quoting Talk Origins, a great worldwide flood receded. The mountain Noesake emerged with its sides closed with trees whose leaves were shaped like female genitalia. Only 3 people survived on top of the mountain. The sea eagle brought tidings of other mountains emerging from the waters, and the people went hither. End of the quote. The Aboriginal elders of Australia also have a prophecy about flooding on their east coast at Looking Glass Bay. Quoting Hawkesbury, Looking Glass Bay is on the northern shore of Cowan Creek upstream of Baby Bay and opposite Cottage Point. Looking Glass Rock stands near the eastern entrance to the bay. Looking Glass Rock was presumably named because of its shape. Also, on the longest day, the rising sun illuminates the rock so that it shines like a mirror. There is a story that the local Aborigines believed that when the water rose to cover the rock, the white men would leave. End of the quote. The legend of NuWa in China is highly allegorical, but clear in its description of the crustal shift that occurred. The NuWa legend describes the globe tilting during the past pole shifts, so the Sun and North Pole appear in new locations. Quoting from PowerPoint Paradise, the Chinese legend tells how the world was swept by a great flood, and only Fuzi and his sister NuWa survived. There was a quarrel between 2 of the most powerful gods, and they decided to settle it with a fight. When the water god Gong Gong saw that he was losing, he smashed his head against Mount Buzhu, a pillar holding up the sky. The pillar collapsed and caused the sky to tilt upward toward the northwest and the earth to shift to the southeast. This caused great floods and suffering to the people. NuWa was unable to fully correct the tilted sky. End of the quote. The descriptions of red dust and debris and hail is found in many prophecies. Certainly red dust and fireballs have been on the increase. Quoting the Visuddhi-Magga, a Buddhist text, when a world cycle is destroyed by wind, first it raises a fine dust, then coarse dust, then fine sand, then coarse sand, then grit, stones, up to boulders as large as trees. End of the quote. The Buddhist legend about the Udumbara flower states they bloom every 3,000 years and return to the human world to herald the return of an enlightened being, like a Buddha. Udumbara comes from the ancient Sanskrit language, the oldest language on earth. Quoting Buddhist scripture, Udumbara is the product of ominous and supernatural phenomenon. It is a celestial flower and does not exist in the mundane world. If a Talhageta, or king of the golden wheel, appears in the human world, these flowers will manifest due to their great virtue and blessing. End of the quote. Appearing in bunches on metal or stone, places where no water or soil exists, they are a mystery that has been suddenly flourishing since 1997 in China and throughout Asia. The flowers are actually husks of the luwing fly eggs. In the opinion of the Zetas, it is the roiling core emanations that accompany the 3,600-year return of Nibiru that incite the Udumbara. In India, the god Shiva, the god of destruction and renewal, represents Nibiru. Shiva also has a red aspect about him. Sure sounds like Nibiru. Quoting Wikipedia, the cosmic functions of creation, maintenance, and destruction are personified by the forms of Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the maintainer or preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer or transformer. These 3 deities have been called the Hindu triad. End of the quote. Kali, one of Shiva's wives, has a dusky blue color. This seems to be the Earth's dark twin. Note the prophetic similarities to the Hopi red and blue Kachina prophecy. Quoting Wikipedia, the name Kali means black, time, death, lord of death. Kali is represented as the consort of Lord Shiva, on whose body she is often seen standing. Kali is portrayed mostly in two forms, the popular four-armed form and the ten-armed Mahakina form. In both of her forms, she is described as being black in color, but is often described as blue in popular Indian art. End of the quote. The legend that the Dead Sea will host live fish again is apparently related to an aquifer under Iraq that is squeezed as Africa rolls to the east, the Zeta Talk Africa roll. These fish have now appeared in the Dead Sea. Quoting Ezekiel 47, chapters 8 to 11. These waters issue forth toward the eastern region and shall go down into the Araba, and when they shall enter into the sea and the putrid waters, the waters shall be healed. And it shall come to pass that every living creature wherewith it swimmeth, whithersoever the rivers, shall come alive. And there shall be a great multitude of fish, for these waters are come hither, that all things be healed, and may live whithersoever the river cometh. Fishermen will stand along the shore from En-Gedi to En-Eglam, and there will be places for spreading nets. The fish will be many kinds, like the fish of the Mediterranean Sea, but the swamps and marshes will not become fresh. They will be left for salt. End of the quote. Quoting Zechariah 14:8. And it shall come to pass in that day that living waters shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them toward the eastern sea, and half of them toward the western sea. In summer and in winter shall it be. End of the quote. Seems we have a lot of biblical support for that. The hadiths also have a prophecy about the deserts of Arabia becoming lush. Amazingly, this also has just occurred. Quoting the Shaheen Muslim book number 5, Hadith number 2208. The last hour shall not come till the land of Arabia once again becomes meadows and rivers. End of the quote. Red dust turning the skies red is featured in many prophecies. Certainly there are lots of red skies lately, and even red dust on the ground. Quoting the book of Exodus, the river was bloody, the earth was filled with redness. It twisted about itself like a coil. It remained close to the sun, whose face it hid. End of the quote. Quoting the Kolbrin, with the dawning, men saw an awesome sight. There, riding on a black, rolling cloud, came the destroyer, newly released from the confines of the sky vaults. And she raged about the heavens, for it was her day of judgment. The beast with her opened its mouth and belched forth fire and hot stones, and a vile smoke. It covered the whole sky above, and the meeting place of earth and heaven could no longer be seen. End of the quote. Quoting the book of Revelations, things which must shortly come to pass. And I behold, when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. And the kinds of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondsman, and every free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. End of the quote. Another repeatedly mentioned sign of a pending passage of Nibiru is an earth wobble. Rather than describe this in technical terms, as Zeta Talk has done, as a figure eight formed by the North Pole of Earth, this is described as a confused sky, the moon moving too rapidly, stars out of place, and in general, the populace not paying attention to these signs. The wobble has been with us since 2004 and is getting worse. The Kolbrin does an excellent job describing this, as does the book of Enoch, which had been excluded from the Bible. Quoting from the Kolbrin, when ages pass, certain laws operate upon the stars of the heavens. Their ways change, there is movement and restlessness. They are no longer constant, and a great light appears redly in the skies. The heralds of doom will appear. They will come softly as thieves in the tombs. Men will not know them for what they are. Men will be deceived. The hour of the destroyer is at hand. End of the quote. And quoting from the book of Exodus, strange omens in the skies. End of the quote. Quoting from the book of Enoch, and all things of the earth shall alter and shall not appear in their time, and the moon shall alter her order and not appear at her time. And in those days the sun shall be seen, and he shall journey in the evening on the extremity of the great chariot in the west, and shall shine more brightly than accords the order of the light. And many chiefs of the stars shall transgress the order prescribed to them. And these shall alter their orbits and tasks, and not appear at the seasons prescribed to them. And the whole order of the stars shall be concealed, and the thoughts of those on earth shall err concerning them. End of the quote. Nibiru is described as a dragon in the book of Revelations. And I quote, "And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon the heads. And the third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and fountains of water, and they became blood. And there was a great earthquake, such as not since man was upon the earth, and every island fled away, and the mountains were not found." End of the quote from Revelations. The ancient Babylonians likewise described Nibiru as a dragon, picturing him as the alchemical dragon Azoth, with his 2 suns and a moon, turning his face away. Mother Shipton likewise refers to Nibiru as a dragon, and I quote, "For 7 days and 7 nights man will watch this awesome sight. The tides will rise beyond their ken to bite away the shores, and then the mountains will begin to roar, and earthquakes shall split the plain to shore. Not every soul on earth will die as the dragon's tail goes sweeping by. Not every land on earth will sink, but these will wallow in stench and stink of rotting bodies of beast and man, of vegetation crisped on land." End of the quote from Mother Shipton. Trumpeting heard in the skies is predicted in the book of Revelations, and the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. And the third part of trees was burned up, and all green grass was burned up. End of the quote from Revelations, and also described in the Kolbrin. The days of stillness were followed by a time when the noise of trumpeting and shrilling was heard in the heavens, and the people became as frightened beasts without a headsman. The doom shape thundered sharply in the heavens and shot out bright lightnings. Then a voice like 10,000 trumpets was heard. The whole of the land moved, and mountains melted. The sky itself roared like 10,000 lions in agony. End of the quote. But all was theory until trumpeting actually started in 2011 in Kiev and Belarus. But it was the trumpets heard in Jerusalem in 2016 that got heads turning. For the Zetas, this is water vibrating, as in all cases a large body of water is nearby. Trumpeting can be multi-tonal trumpets or a horn or even a howl, as in the Tampa Bay howl. In Finland, there is an end times prediction about flooding, which is understandable due to Finland lying at the end of the Baltic Sea. It's lowland, a bay where ocean sloshing will wash water ashore. But this myth also involved blowing a horn to warn the people. Quoting the Daily Mail, legend has it that the Norse god Hilmdelar would blow the mythical Gjallerhorn to warn of the Viking apocalypse, also known as Ragnarok. Ragnarok, which translates to Doom of the Gods, is due to be preceded by the Winter of Winters. There will be huge earthquakes. The sea will rear up, and the soil and the sky will be stained with poison. The earth will sink into the sea, paving the way for a new utopian world with endless supplies. End of the quote. Turmoil before the passage of Nibiru is predicted, with a world war breaking out and the Antichrist appearing. Quoting Thessalonians 2, chapters 7 to 10. The coming of the lawless one is apparent in the working of Satan, who uses all power, signs, lying, wonders, and every kind of wicked deception for those who are perishing, because they refused to love the truth and be saved. End of the quote. In addition to biblical references to the Antichrist, there is a mysterious 40 days prediction in the Hadith. Prophet Muhammad predicted that a fake Christ would reign on earth for 40 days, but this 40 days seems to equate to a year plus a month plus a week. Quoting the Hadiths, the false Messiah would live on earth for 40 days, in which one day would be like a year, one day would be like a month, one day would be like a week, and all of his days would be like your days. End of the quote. The Zetas have interpreted one day like a year will be the year before the pole shift, when the seasons blend into one another so all seems like a single day. One day like a month would be the last weeks, from 3 days of darkness to 6 days of sunrise west. One day like a week is the week of rotation stoppage. An oft-reported warning in both the Hadiths and the Talmud is the sun rising in the west for several days prior to a passage. In the Talmud, this is for a period of 7 days before the passage. In the Hadiths, the sun rising from the west goes on for 6 days. In both the book of Joshua and the 12th Iman, a stopped rotation is mentioned, and the book of Exodus refers to a dark day and the earth turning over. Quoting the Talmud, 7 days before the deluge, the Holy One changed the primordial order, and the sun rose in the west and set in the east. Quoting the Hadiths, the hour will not be established till the sun rises from the west. Look at that time for a violent wind and earthquake, being swallowed up by the earth, pelting rain, and signs following one another like bits of a necklace, falling one after the other when its string is cut. Quoting the 12th Iman, the rising of the sun from the west, one of the things which must happen. Between the decline of the sun at noon and the time of the afternoon prayer, the sun will remain still. Quoting the book of Joshua, and the sun stood still and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. So the sun stood still in the midst of the heaven, and haste not go down about a whole day. Quoting the book of Exodus, midday is no brighter than night. Ships were sucked away from their moorings and destroyed in great whirlpools. The earth turned over as day spun upon a potter's wheel. End of the quote. The story of Noah's Ark appears in the Bible and in the Egyptian Kolbrin, and is considered to be more than a myth. It is also, in these days of floods and deluge, a prophecy. The Ark Encounter theme park in Cincinnati claims to be following the Ark size description in the Bible, Genesis 6:15, which states, "And this is how you shall make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. But the Egyptian Kolbrin states otherwise, describing a smaller ark. In the Kolbrin, Noah does not rescue every creature on earth, but focuses on domestic animals. His animals will need, his family will need after the flood subsides. Noah is pictured as a nobleman with enough wealth to build the ark. Quoting the Kolbrin, the lowermost was for the beasts and cattle and their provender, and it was laid over with sand from the river. The middle one was for birds and fowls, for plants of every kind that are good for man and beast. And the uppermost one was for the people, cisterns for water and storehouses for food. The ship was without mast or oars. There were no poles and no opening except for a hatch underneath the eaves above, whereby all things entered into the great ship. they carried the seed of all living things. Grain was laid up in baskets, and many cattle and sheep were slain for meat, which was smoked by fire. They also took all kinds of beasts of the field and wild beasts, birds and fowls, all things that crawl. End of the quote. To settle the argument, a blueprint to be followed by Noah was discovered in ancient Babylonian. The ark was found round rather than long and made of reeds. This design, in fact, would survive the waves far better than a longboat. Quoting the Daily Mail, a scale model of Noah's Ark has been built based on a blueprint drawn up in ancient Babylon 4,000 years ago. The expert behind the biblical undertaking that rocked the world last year with his controversial theory that the fabled ark was round and made of reeds. End of the quote. Weren't the remains of the ark as a huge longboat discovered on Mount Arafat? This was claimed, and many expeditions later, nada. But the hype was based on Genesis 8, chapter 4, which states, in the 7th month, on the 16th day of the month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. End of the quote. There is no disagreement that it rained like crazy, and Iraq and Persia flooded, floating the ark. Quoting Genesis 7, chapters 17 to 24. Then the flood began. The foundations of the deep broke open, and the windows of heavens were opened. Rain poured for 40 days and 40 nights. The waters rose until every high hill on earth was covered. Everything that lived on land perished in the raging floodwaters. End of the quote from Genesis. The Egyptian Kolbrin relates the flood to a passage of Nibiru and is very descriptive. Quoting the Kolbrin, then with the dawning men saw an awesome sight. There, riding on a great black rolling cloud, came the destroyer. She raged about the heavens, for it was her day of judgment. The beast with her opened its mouth and belched forth fire and hot stones and a vile smoke. The floodgates of heaven were opened, and the foundations of earth were broken apart. The surrounding waters poured over the land and broke upon the mountains. Storms and whirlwinds were loosed. The waves over the water did not rise and fall, but seethed and swirled. The stars in the heavens were loosed from their place, so they dashed about in confusion. There was a revolt on high. A new ruler appeared and swept across the sky in majesty. The destroyer passed away into the fastness of heaven, and the great flood remained 7 days, diminishing day by day as the waters drained away to their places. End of the quote. For the Zetas, the flood of legend was a displacement wave when part of the ice near the South Pole broke and dropped into the ocean. Honeycombed underneath due to wave action, this ice was fragile. The displacement wave roared up toward Persia, and due to tidal bore, blocked at from dispersing, rose high. Certainly, these prophecies are preparing us for great global changes. Quoting Edgar Cayce, as the physical changes begin, the earth will be broken up in the western portion of America. The greater portion of Japan must go into the sea. The upper portion of Europe will be changed as in the winking of an eye. Land will appear off the east coast of America. There will be upheavals in the Arctic and in the Antarctic that will make for the eruption of volcanoes in the torrid zones. There will be a shifting of the poles, so that where there has been those of a frigid or the semi-tropical will become the more tropical, and moss and fern will grow. End of the Edgar Cayce quote. The Hopi Indians relay a very comprehensive roadmap to what society must deal with during the end times. Quoting from Walking the Red Road, a Hopi report. This is long, but is so beautiful that I want to quote the whole thing. It was told to me that first the blue Kachina would start to be seen at the dances and would make his appearance known to the children of the plaza during the night dance. This event would tell us that the end times are very near. Then the blue star Kachina would physically appear in our heavens, which would mean that we were in the end times. In the final days, we will look up in our heavens and we will witness the return of the two brothers who helped create this world in the birthing time. Pogan Hoya is the guardian of our North Pole, and his brother Pogan Wawaho is the guardian of the South Pole. In the final days, the blue star Kachina will come to be with his nephews, and they will return the Earth to its natural rotation, which is counterclockwise. This fact is evidenced in many petroglyphs that speak of the zodiac and within the Mayan and Egyptian pyramids. The rotation of the Earth has been manipulated by not-so-benevolent star beings. The twins will be seen in our northwestern skies. They will come and visit to see who still remembered the original teachings, flying in their pavavotas, or flying shields. They will bring many of their star family with them in the final days. The return of the blue star Kachina, who is also known as Nanga Hushuhu, will be the alarm clock that tells us of the new day and new way of life. A new world is coming. This is where the changes will begin. They will start as fires that burn within us, and we will burn up with desires and conflict if we do not remember the original teachings and return to the peaceful way of life. Not far behind the twins will come the purifier, the red Kachina, who will bring the day of purification. On this day, the earth, her creatures, and all life as we know it will change forever. There will be messengers that will precede this coming of the purifier. They will leave messages to those on earth who remember the old ways. The messages will be found written in the living stone, through the sacred grains, and even the waters. From the purifier will issue forth a great red light. All things will change in their manner of being. Every living thing will be offered the opportunity to change from the largest to the smallest thing. Those who return to the ways given to us in the original teachings and who live a natural way of life will not be touched by the coming of the purifier. They will survive and build the new world. Only in the ancient teachings will the ability to understand the messages be found. It is important to understand that these messages will be found upon every living thing, even within our bodies, even within a drop of our blood. All life forms will receive the messages from the twins. Those that fly, the plants, even the rabbit. The appearance of the twins begins a period of 7 years, will be our final opportunity to change our ways. Everything we experience is all a matter of choice. Many will appear to have lost their souls in these final days. So intense will the nature of the changes be that those who are weak in spiritual awareness will go insane, for we are nothing without spirit. They will disappear, for they are just hollow vessels for anything to use. Life will be so bad in the cities that many will choose to leave this plane, some in whole groups. Only those who return to the values of the old ways will be able to find peace of mind. For in the earth we shall find relief from the madness that will be all around us. It will be a very hard time for women with children, for they will be shunned, and many of these children in these times will be unnatural. Some being from the stars, some from past worlds, some will even be created by man in an unnatural manner and will be soulless. Many people at this time will be empty in spirit. They will have sambuku, no life force in their eyes. As we get close to the time of arrival, the purifier, there will be those who walk as ghosts through the cities. Through canyons they will have constructed in their man-made mountains. Those that walk through these places will be very heavy in their walk. They will appear almost painful as they take each step, for they will be disconnected from their spirit and the earth. After the arrival of the twins, they will begin to vanish before your eyes like muck smoke. Others will have great deformities, both in the mind and upon their bodies. There will be those who will walk in the body that are not from this reality, for many of the gateways that once protected us will be opened. There will be much confusion. confusion between sexes and children and their elders. Life will get very perverted, and there will be little social order in these times. Many will ask for the mountains themselves to fall upon them, just to end their misery. Still others will appear as if untouched by what is occurring. The ones who remember the original teachings and have reconnected their hearts and spirit, those who remember who their mother and father is, the Pahara have left to live in the mountains and forest. When the purifier comes, we will see him first as a small red star, which will come very close and sit in our heavens watching us to see how well we have remembered the sacred teachings. The purifier will show us miraculous signs in our heavens. In this way, we will know the Creator is not a dream. Even those who do not feel their connection to Spirit will see the face of the Creator across the sky. Things unseen will be left and felt very strongly. Many things will begin to occur that do not make sense, for reality will be shifting back in and out of the dream state. There will be many doorways to the lower world that will open at this time. Things long forgotten will come back to remind us of our past creations. All living things will want to be present for this day when time ends and we enter the forever cycle of the fifth world. We will receive many warnings allowing us to change our ways from below the earth as well as above. Then one morning, in a moment, we will awaken to the red dawn. The sky will be the color of blood. Many things will then begin to happen that right now we are not sure of their exact nature, for much of reality will not be as it is now. There will be many strange beasts upon earth in those days, some from the past and some we have never seen. The nature of mankind will appear strange in these times. We walk between worlds, and we will house many spirits even within our bodies. After a time we will again walk with our brothers from the stars and rebuild this earth, but not until the purifier has left his mark upon the universe. No living thing will go untouched here or in the heavens. The way through this time, it is said, to be found in our hearts and reuniting with our spiritual self, getting simple and returning to living with and upon the earth and in harmony with her creatures. Remembering that we are the caretakers, the firekeepers of the spirit, our relatives from the stars are coming home to see how well we have fared in our journey, and I'm getting teary. In all these prophecies mention a time of bounty, a beautiful time afterwards, as the Bible said. The meek shall inherit the earth, and Jesus will return, which according to the Zetas means the service to other, will be allowed to proliferate on earth, and the bad guys get hauled away. Takes a few years, but they do. But
also part of that, Nancy, too, is remember that the Christ consciousness is a level of being that includes all, right?
Yes.
It includes we all are one, including galactic partnerships.
Yes.
And some would say, not my opinion here, some would say that Jesus of Nazareth could have been, a contactee or, a step
Star
in and
child.
walk in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what the Zetas say. Buddha and Muhammad also, star children, yeah.
So there's hope. There's
hope.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and also, the whole trick, everybody out there, all you got to do is remember. Just listen and watch and remember. Yeah.
Yeah. And, rather than go through a whole other survival basics, which I think we just did 6 months ago, what I want to do next week, and I'm already collecting stuff on this, is talking about all the signs of hope that are happening around us. Putin reaching out to Modi saying, come on, people from India, come up to the Far East. Well, India, according to the Zetas, is going to be pushed under, and there they go, they're all going to drown. Like in that movie, 2012, where the big wave came washing over India. It's already sinking, But here they get an offer to come up to the Far East, through Kazakhstan. They're going to have a path, a land bridge. That's one. one. But another one is the humpback whale returning, and the sea vegetation just exploding in growth. Not just the humpback, but sea lions and all kinds of the krill. The humpback eats the krill. The krill eats the little photoplanktons. The whole chain that's going up through the fishes, and so the fisheries are restored, and seaweed is edible, and the Zeta said 25 years ago the oceans will be lush. Well, that's not just prophecy opinion anymore. That happened, because if you spread red iron dust on the ocean, 20-fold increase in vegetation, 20-fold. So this is another positive sign, and there's things that show that what the world is going to be in the future is going to be so much better than today. All the crudge is going to be ripped away, including, people taking advantage of other people, money grubbers, the rich getting richer, the poor poorer, slave camps, all that gone. It won't be like in a wink. But the Zetas have said, in the opinion of the Zetas, change. The elite are going to be discombobulated. What makes them think that their militias are going to stick around and protect them? And that money will be worthless. Won't mean a thing. You can't eat money. You can't eat gold and jewels. And cooperative survival communities, farming, fishing, this kind of thing, houseboat communities, fishing, and so much of the earth is going to be flooded. But houseboat communities, and now all they have to do is drop a line over the side because there's going to be fish everywhere. To say nothing of they eat dead bodies and things like that. So, you get water and flooding in, over land, and a lot of things died off, including people, and the fish come in and eat the dying stuff. And now we got a lot of fish, so survivors are going to be doing well. It's kind of a gruesome thought, but that's what happens. Life springs from death. It's the nature of, what does the Lion King say? Circle of life. Ta-da. And a circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Part of this awakening process for everybody too is realizing that the truth is out there. It's usually inside of yourself, first of all, and then all you got to do is watch the sky a little bit, or if you're in an area that floods more often in the last 10 years, let's say, maybe that's a sign you should find higher ground, especially
or
build
a
Florida.
Raft. Yeah, get your flotation devices together, build a raft, build a little houseboat. People will laugh at you, call you NuWa too. NuWa was wise. Then as the floodwaters rise, and usually it won't be a big crashing wave. The water will just keep coming up, that type of thing. And you'll be floating.
And the sloshing.
A little sloshing, right, depending on where you are. The sloshing will happen in big bodies of water, but not in your little pond next door, most likely, So I know of people that are building their rafts, flotation device, anything that floats, anything that's filled with air or is lighter than water, displacement. We went through that once on USA EBN, past broadcasts. We covered that stuff in depth. And you can go through, look at the interviews link on my website and pick them out. We've been at it for 3-4 years. How long has it been? Since 2015 for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Andre.
We got a little bit of time left, so I just wanted to mention real quick that if you want to go through the links and find it, probably the quickest way is to go to the YouTube for Nancy Leader and just scroll down through the videos. And they're usually posted monthly, and she pops in with some other Zeta report and other videos there too. But go through it, and the keywords are in the descriptions on those, right, Nancy? And then
yes, they are. Yes, indeed. Yes, they are. Yeah.
And then you can also check out zetatalk.com.
Yes. Things are moving rapidly. People are